Hey, what's up? So here is a YouTube video. What to say? It's about barefoot shoes, and it's also about how little things add up, accumulate. So, but before I talk about that, I'm just gonna say I have recently adopted this practice called writing morning pages, and I think a lot of what I used to make, or some of what I used to make videos about, was things that I would go through that I needed to vent. You know, stuff that was going on and I had no one else to talk to. And here was YouTube. And so that's great. I mean, but now I have a practice where I write about my thoughts and just let them flow in the morning. It's part of a artistic journey kind of thing. And yeah, so really YouTube now is more just about sharing certain things that I find very interesting. And so this is a subject that I have wanted to I wanted to share it in a yoga class, but the thing is like in a 1 hour class, you can't just sit there and talk, you know, especially for some subjects that require a significant amount of words, you know, to really kind of hit a bunch of points and whatnot. So all of a sudden it's like, I got nowhere to share this stuff. And so anyways, here's this video. So basically, I learned about, I became aware of this idea of barefoot shoes maybe a year or two ago or something like that. I mean, it took a bit of time to I think I was in New York, and I realized I didn't have good footwear, you know, like my feet were hurting. And then I started looking into, you know what it was? It was like, I've always worn Birkenstocks because they were a thing in my family. They just, everybody's got a pair. And I've had a few pairs myself, but then when I was in New York, I couldn't find, I went to the Birkenstock store and I looked online before, and I couldn't get my hands on a pair of vegan Birkenstocks. And I have a pair of them, and an old pair of leather ones from back in the day. But it was frustrating because it was like, I want these shoes, but I can't get them. They're just sold out. And it's like, you know, you do the whole like notify me thing, and then they never seem to materialize. And so it was like, well, this is ridiculous. Like, why am I loyal to this company who, I mean, they clearly don't even care at all about veganism. You know, they just offer those shoes as a money grab just because they know that people will buy them or whatever. And I tried their plasticky ones that are like Crocs, and they felt, I don't know, they're not like anything that I want to put on my feet. And so I was like, well, this is ridiculous. Like, why am I so loyal to this company? And it's like these things, and you know, there's got to be something else out there. There's got to be something better. So I started doing research on the plane ride home. I think, you know, along those lines, and then on the buses and stuff like that, like trying to get back to Chilliwack. And then it was like, well, you know, I came across some websites about the you know, these things about barefoot shoes, and you start reading the literature. It's like you have a wide toe box, so you can always spread your toes, and there's zero drop from your heel to the ball of your foot, like the front. There's no, you don't have like a big heel and then a small piece here, so that it changes the way that you walk, right? Because then you're kind of walking on a wedge, which is not the way our foot is. I mean, you would just kind of assume that, you know, the human body is like built, you know, to naturally support its movement, you know. Like if we were supposed to have like a bigger heel, we would have some like large heel, right? But it's not the case. And so and then, yeah, so there's the zero drop, and then there's this whole thing to do with like padding, you know, like you get these shoes, you get all kinds of insoles in them. You get arch support, which isn't normal either. It's like, since when, like, is it, I guess the question is like, is it right? Is it normal? Is it healthy to have arch support? And according to the barefoot community, the answer is a whopping no. And so what was the other thing too? It was to do with the cushioning in your shoes. So like, you're walking around and you got shoes. Check these things out. They're ridiculous. I mean, like, we're talking a pair of Nike shoes here. Look at the size of that cushioning there. You know, I mean, the problem with it is that it allows you to do what is called a heel strike. So then you're able to, essentially, as you walk around. So walking, the term is your gait. And so, like, GAIT. And then, so as you walk, what you do, because you have this giant chunk of foam underneath your foot, the first part of your body that hits the ground each time you take a step forward is your heel. And so, but this isn't how, if, like, say when you walk around in bare feet or in shoes that do not provide that kind of cushioning, you can't do that, because doing a heel strike, there isn't a bunch of padding on the bottom of your heel. We're not designed to do that. And so when you do, every step, what is it? Not the vibrations, the impact, it hits your heel bone, and then it comes up to your knee and up to your hips and up to your back. It directly impacts your skeleton, your bones and stuff like that, which is arguably not what you want, as opposed to when you are wearing barefoot shoes or just going barefoot. You cannot walk around doing these heel strikes. You have to evenly distribute the weight in your feet, and you essentially walk with the ball of your foot forward, and then you lower your heel down, or you walk on the sides of your foot, or you sort of, depending on the terrain that you're on, you evenly distribute the weight, but you certainly do not do a heel strike. It's not an option, especially when you start wearing barefoot shoes. I have a number of pairs of them. This is one pair. So I learned about them, and then I was like, well, I tried on all my other shoes, and I recognized, I was like, yeah, my feet have been uncomfortable and cramped up for years, and I've found it so difficult to find shoes that actually felt good, like without having to break them in. Like they fit, it's like they're always too narrow. And what it turns out, it's like some of these companies, it's to do with saving material. So they're cutting costs. Instead of making a big wide toe where there's more waste that comes from the production of the shoes, they make them kind of small. And I think that's the idea. That's at least what, according to the research that I did, is that it has to do with the manufacturing process and to reduce waste. So they don't make shoes that have a large toe capacity or whatever in them. They make them in this other way. And because they're not thinking about you, exactly. And that's the thing, they're thinking about themselves. They don't, a lot of these companies would say they don't care. They care a lot more about a bottom line and selling shoes and even like making shoes that look cool but aren't good for you. Like if you think of all the shoes that people wear that have heels on them, especially there is a certain gender, women who wear like some insane heels, that are so abnormal, like they might look cool and whatnot, but they can be very unhealthy for your walking and feet and stuff like that. And anyway, so moving forward, the point is that like, so if you wear shoes that allow you to do a heel strike, then every time you take a step, which is significant because you know how some people, they wear these little wristbands or they have these watches and it says like, oh, I don't know, you get your 10,000 steps in. Like anything that you do 10,000 times a day, if it isn't done, you know, if it's not promoting health, you know what I mean? Like if it's not done in the right way, something that is highly repetitive, it could very well have a negative impact on your health and well-being. In this case, you know, physical in the physical sense. And so, and the difference is like when you start wearing barefoot shoes, so there is a transition. Like you have to relearn how to walk because you've been relying on these shoes to essentially absorb the impact rather than using your muscles. And so what happens is that over the course of learning how to walk without shoes that absorb the impact for you, every step that you take, essentially all of a sudden you have to use the muscles in your foot, in your toes, in your ankle, in your calf, in your legs, just in general, in order to, you know, mitigate the impact that walking on certain surfaces, namely hard surfaces like concrete and asphalt and stuff like that, has on your joints and bones and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, so, and it's funny because it's not funny, it's sad because it's like, so every step that you take wearing normal shoes, you know, has a negative impact. So you're not using your muscles, so your muscles get weaker, and it has an impact on your knees and your hips and stuff like that. Whereas when you switch to barefoot shoes, your feet and ankles and calves and everything gets stronger because you're actually using the muscles. And then so I've heard it, I've always had big arches in my feet. I've never had flat feet, but I've seen people who have had fallen arches go away because all of a sudden you're actually using your feet. And I've heard some people be like, oh, well, I have to wear these shoes because my arches are fallen. And it's like, no, your arches fell because you're wearing those shoes. And yeah, it's painful it's like going to the gym for the first time. You know, when it's like you've never been to the gym and then you go and then all of a sudden you're just like, yeah, wow, this is hard and it hurts and I'm sore, but it's worth it, right? Because like if you're doing all these like steps, you got to walk around unless you're in a wheelchair. I mean, like it's probably in your best interest to have strong feet, strong legs, strong ankles, and be free of knee pain. And this was a big thing for me. You know, I didn't know where my knee pain was coming from. It is just something that got worse and worse over time. And then eventually I embraced these barefoot shoes, and lo and behold, the knee pain disappeared, just dissipated just like that. So it wasn't like because I was working wrong or doing yoga. I don't know, like I didn't know what it was, right? It was so hard to put my finger on what it was. And it was my damn shoes. I was wearing shoes that allowed me to walk in a way that was unnatural. And also too, like, you know, if you have shoes with that heel in it, think about it. Then you're like you're up like this. It's not natural. Natural is your foot on the ground, you know, walking around on dirt, on grass or whatever, right? And yeah, so yeah, and so it's sort of, this whole thing dovetails in with this. I made a video about how weightlifting as a spiritual practice, and I said in this um, how it's like, if you don't know how to lift heavy things, don't, because you can easily screw up your back, especially if you've been working for a number of years, like sitting in a chair, you get tight, your hamstrings get tight, and how they're, it's all collected or connected to your lumbar, your lower part of your back, your spine, your vertebrae and whatnot. Like, don't, right? But the thing is that what are you going to do? Just like not doing anything, right? And it's like, the thing is with lifting weights, it's like, when you don't know how to lift things properly, every time you do it, you do like, there's a potential for doing damage and risking injury, as opposed to, if you know how to lift things properly, then every time you lift something, you actually get stronger, because you're working the correct muscle groups, and you're protecting the vulnerable places, right? And so this is the same thing, like with these barefoot shoes. It's like, I don't know, I will never go back. And it's frustrating, because you have to sit there and look at all of your other shoes and be like, well, yeah, I paid, for those Nikes, they were expensive, and other boots that I have, and shoes, and all of these things. But then it's like, to go from wearing barefoot shoes and then putting your feet back into these other shoes, which change the way that you walk, and which can squish your toes, and do all kinds of things that are not necessarily in your best interest. It's like, well, what's important? Your shoe collection, the investment in shoes, or the investment in your health, and your investment in living a pain-free existence. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's tricky too, because then, so at that point I was like, well, how do I, all of a sudden, then you have to navigate this world of barefoot shoes. And some people, one of the originals anyways, is this company called Vibram. And then they're called like the Five Fingers. And so, because they have like it looks like like you can see the toes, right? They're like cut out. It looks like your foot, essentially. I am not a fan of these, because I think they're goofy looking, and I can't get past that. I mean, I don't know, maybe for like aquatic use or something like that. And I mean, they make some other ones too. They're neat. They're kind of like these wraparound things. They're based on like this Japanese type of shoe, and those weren't for me. And I bought these ones here, but they're weird, because they have like a so they have holes in the bottom, so they're useless in the rain. I've had to fill them full of shoe goo. They stood the test of time so far? Yes. I wear these for work. These have become my work shoes, and I wear them every day, because at work I'm taking a lot of steps. I'm walking around all day on these things. The only time I don't wear my barefoot shoes at work is when I'm installing hardwood flooring, like full spread glue. So you have to kind of kick the boards in, and it's just too much impact on your foot to not have a cushion there. So there is a use for shoes that have cushion. Like, they're just, my other work shoes are a pair of Nikes, and just Nike running shoes. And the same thing with these Nike running shoes. I run in these, I don't know if I would wear barefoot running shoes, to run on a hard thing like what do you call it? To run on concrete or pavement or whatever in barefoot shoes. I mean, you could, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I will have to cross that bridge when I come to it, but maybe, because I've had issues running with my knees before too, but it's like it's hard to pinpoint what it is. Is it like because I hadn't been running for a little while and my knees are sore? It's like when you take a plant that hasn't seen a lot of sun and then you put it outside and it gets burnt, even though it's a cactus, and it's just like, what is going on here, right? But anyways, but there are companies that do make barefoot running shoes, and so I got these sandals. They're called Luna sandals, and they're okay. They're barefoot running sandals, but they're kind of like they got these little straps on them, and like, good for say like being down at the river and like going swimming with them because they would stay on your feet, but not entirely super practical. Whereas when I ordered, because I was like, okay, I'm just going to embrace this, and I got to buy a bunch of different pairs of shoes, and so I got these ones. They're called Earth Runners, and they're a sandal, and it's just got like a strap that comes around in a loop like this, and you get your foot in, and you got to like size it up once, but once you get it, like the moment I took them out of the box, I was like, oh yeah, these things are awesome. You could just tell by the materials and how they were constructed, and it's just like, yeah, these are awesome. And I've had so many compliments on them, and people like who have been humming and hawing, like, oh, I don't know, it's hard to decide. But, when I don't know, for me, I stand behind them 100%. I love my Earth Runners. They have 100% replaced my Birkenstocks. I mean, I still wear Birks once in a blue moon, or for certain things, but I love my Earth Runners. That's become a thing. The Luna sandals are for down at the river. I bought these ones. So there's this company called Ahimsa shoes. So Ahimsa means non-violent. It's a Sanskrit word, yogic thing anyways. And so they're supposed to be like, vegan shoes and whatnot, ethical and blah blah blah. And I got these ones that look like Birkenstocks, but when I opened up the box, I was like, these are the ugliest shoes ever, and they're the most uncomfortable. They're super unpractical. What a waste of money. I've never worn them just because they're absolutely hideous. And so 2 thumbs downs on those. There's another pair here, which I will bring up because I have something to say about them. So these ones here, where does this get here? There's these here. Check these out. These are called Barefoot wear. That's their little symbol. Looks like that, right? Barefoot wear. And when I opened up the box, I immediately, so they were hard to get, there was something, they wouldn't like ship to my location, but I persisted, and like, cause I thought they looked kind of cool, and I was trying to find a pair of shoes, and I think they say that they came from Germany, but you know what, when I opened up the box, I looked at the materials, and they just looked so cheap. And I looked at the stitching on them and how like the stitching, these are like brand new. This was like brand new out of the box, and the stitching is like coming apart right here, or not like fully embedded. And just the materials that they are built with, and then looking at like the shape of them, they're not like aesthetically pleasing. I've had compliments on them, but I tell people, be like, these shoes are absolute garbage. And then when you stick your foot in them, it was like the toe part was rounded over so that it like hurt my foot, like they're just not designed well at all. And then the tongue digs into your foot, and then they squeeze this part of your foot, and they're just super uncomfortable, absolute garbage shoes. Bare footwear, right? Bare footwear. What a waste of money. Do I wear them from time to time? Yes, because I can't return them. Unfortunately, some of the things that I buy from overseas, it's just like, what do you do? Because shipping them back and return policies, and it's just like, I was hoping that they would just break in. But then you look into that, it's like, good shoes you shouldn't have to break in. They should just fit nice and awesome, straight off the bat, especially when we're not talking about leather shoes. I understand that there might be a break-in period there, but I mean, when we're talking vegan shoes, the materials that they're constructed out of, that's not the case. They should just, and I even retrofitted them. I tried retrofitting them with elastic shoelaces, these bread laces or whatever, and it made them a little better, but they're just absolute crap. And I they send you a thing, and it's like, oh, write us a review. So I wrote a review, and I said, it's like, these things feel like a Chinese knockoff of like something. They feel like knockoffs. And of course they did not publish my review, because they're a scandalous company and they make a crappy product. So screw you guys. Way to steal people's money and produce a lousy product. So that's a thing. The thing about these ones, I can't remember the name, right? And this is the weird thing about it. What kind of a product doesn't have a name on it, right? So you get these things, they look like this. These ones were called Gossamers. There's Gossamers, Roamers, there's all these like different ones that they make. And yes, they're okay for like work, but like it seems like it's weird with knockoff things, right? Like, that there's these companies out there that are just it's like, if you don't do your research, it seems like they actually designed the thing, but really they just copied something, hence knockoff. And so you can go on this one website and it, all of a sudden they got all these shoes, but then you go on something like Amazon and there's the exact same shoes for a different price. And it's just like, and hence, notice how there's no logo on it. They're just like sort of made. And funny enough, like I said, I wear these every day for work. I have had to retrofit them with other insoles that I took out of a pair of Vans, because I found that no cushioning was not ideal for me, because I live in a world where I do have to walk on a lot of hard surfaces. And so to have absolutely nothing that absorbs the impact between you and the ground is not healthy either, right? So what it comes down to is it's like essentially finding a middle ground. Yes, the wide toe box. Yes, the zero drop. Absolutely no arch support. And certainly like the flexibility of the shoe, like being able to move your foot in it and whatnot. It helps that it's made out of a material that has a lot of give, so you can, you're not restricted to this thing. These are pretty good shoes, for what it's worth. I would buy another pair for work, but because I haven't gotten to the bottom. I haven't even looked into, this is my conspiracy theory about, well, why is it that there are multiple companies offering the same style of shoe that look the same, like a Nike's a Nike and Adidas is an Adidas, you make your own shoes. Why? So there's something up with that I haven't figured out yet. But then, so this is the thing. So buying all these shoes, and it's expensive, right? I mean, they're not as expensive as some other shoes, but then, there are some big name brands. that I've heard of, but you also have to find shoes that you think look good. I don't know, for me, I'm a stylish dude. I don't wear clothes, I wear outfits. And so the clothes, the shoes that I wear need to essentially match the outfits that I put together. And so I can't just wear any old shoes, just by some company, just because they fall under the category of barefoot and they have a lot of these qualities or characteristics that are, known as, barefoot shoes. But so, yeah, all that running around trying to find some good shoes. And then at the end of the day, there are certain companies that stand out, right? And so one of them is called Vivo Barefoot. And they offer some nice looking shoes at a premium price. But it's like, I don't know what to say. You get what you pay for. I just bought a pair this morning and they weren't cheap, They were over $200. Pretty close to $300. But, in my experience of buying all these other lesser shoes and then struggling with them, it's like, well, if I would have just spent the money on a good pair of shoes, then I could have avoided the frustration that comes from buying these cheaper shoes that don't do the job, right? And it's like, and this company, they promote this thing. It's called circular footwear, where it's like the shoes are made to last. They're made to be repaired and or recycled, so it's not just about linear footwear where you use it until it dies and then you throw it away, because it's such a mesh of different materials that it's essentially impossible to recycle them in any way that kind of makes sense. Like it would take too long and you wouldn't get enough out of it if you went about trying to separate the materials and whatnot. So yeah, and I tell you that the shoes, they look really good. I have a friend that has a pair and they look really good. So I'm really looking forward to this new pair of shoes. Yeah, what else? Okay, and then so, I think that's enough about the shoes for now. So then the next thing is just to do with, because it's along the same lines. And see, this is why I can't talk about this in my yoga class, because there's just no time. So the thing is, it's like anything like we're talking about with these shoes that you do repeatedly, repetitive movements that, if they're not done correctly, can have a negative impact on your overall health and well-being. It can affect your posture and the how your body is, I don't know, I guess posture, how your body's set up and how it performs and whatnot. And so the thing is, I've had, over the course of my life, I've had a sort of a burning sensation that shows up behind my sort of right shoulder blade. And if you do like research online, they call it rhomboid pain and da-da-da-da-da. And there's all these videos proclaiming that they know how to fix it. There's ones to do with breathing techniques, and there's ones to do with yoga techniques and using blocks. And then there's like physical physiotherapists who essentially show you yoga postures but call them by other names. And then they show you all these different things. And I tried them all and none of them work, right? And so it's like, the thing is what do they say? You don't treat symptoms, you got to treat the cause. You have to get to the root cause of what is going on. And there's a thing in healing. It is, the saying is, before you attempt to work with someone to essentially serve as a healer or a practitioner to facilitate their recovery and health and stuff like that, you ask them two questions. Number one is, are you willing to give up what made you sick in the first place? You have to be honest and identify what is going on and recognize that you were doing something absent-mindedly and it has had an impact on you, and it's like, it's okay, cool your ego and just take what you've learned and move on. Just let it be a learning experience and whatnot. So that's the thing. It's like, so, okay, what is causing this? And then, so the thing that you can do, you can stand there and look in the mirror and just look at how you're standing. I had a woman in Ecuador, I went for metamorphosis, and I'll spare you some of the details, but it was transformational. And it was also on the winter solstice. Anyways, and there's other details, juicy details, but I can't go into them. But so, you stand in front of the mirror and you look at yourself, and look at where your shoulders are at. Just stand normally. Look at where your knees are at. Are you locking out your knees? Like how do you hold yourself? Are you hunched over? Is one shoulder higher than the other? And if it is, it's telling you that you have some kind of an imbalance, right? And these things develop over time because of bad habits. And so a habit is defined as something that you're doing that you're not aware of, whereas everything else is a choice. And so it is these habits, because we don't realize that we're doing them. I had a thing for years, I would bite my lip, and I didn't realize that I was doing it until all of a sudden I had like an injury, and I was like, where did this come from? And then I started thinking about it and paying attention, and it's like, wow, I do this every time I'm like doing certain things. If I go to like pick something up, or if I go to think about something, I don't know how the habit developed. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how long I was doing it, but long enough for it to have a negative impact on my body. And then it becomes a process of recovery. It's like stopping doing that and allowing that part of your body to heal, to readjust. And so this is the thing. It's like, if you're feeling a sensation, a pain in your body anywhere, it's like, do not ignore it. It is so easy to just overlook it, or to like put it off, or to pretend like it's not there, or just to hope it's going to go away. But it's like, your body is telling you something, and it is in your best interest to address whatever is going on, like starting immediately, because it's only going to get worse. And it's going to, when one thing gets worse, because everything is connected, it's going to start affecting other things, and then you're going to see other symptoms show up, and then it's going to be difficult to identify, or like, not differentiate, but yeah, identify what it is that's going on, because now you have like a cumulative effect. Like, you have all of these things going on, but there is a root cause, but because you weren't paying attention a long time ago, and now there's all these things, now you just don't know what to do, and you don't know what to address. And essentially, it's not just address, what to address first. Or like, because if something is causing something else, which is causing something else, you need to deal with the progenitor, with the thing where it is coming from, with the parent. You need to take it back to the root cause, essentially. And so, some of the worst culprits that I have found for essentially promoting bad posture. One of them is sitting in a chair. As we know, this is just terrible for your hamstrings and therefore your lower back, and also because you can be hunched over in the chair. Also, if you're leaning back in a chair, everybody does this. Everybody uses the backrest. I don't, because I've just learned better, because my shoulders need to be back and down. There's a reason why we drill this stuff in yoga classes. Interlace your fingers behind your back, squeeze the shoulder blades together to open up through the chest, and then swing your arms up and back. It's all these, we're trying to like bring these things down and back and have them in place and balance out some of the imbalances that can take place. So another place that's really bad is at the kitchen sink, because you have this tendency to just kind of lean forward. And then if you're just kind of leaning forward, is your head coming forward too? Then you're creating this strain on the back of your neck, which then leads to rhomboid pain, which is the space in between your shoulder blades, whatnot, upper back there. Also cooking, same thing. You're like, are you aware of your posture when you're standing in front of the stove, in front of the kitchen sink? Where are your shoulders? Are they rounded forward, or are you paying attention? And do you know how to bring them back and set them down and hold them there? Like for myself, even though I'm aware of this, I have to catch myself just constantly slipping, not paying attention, because it's you, over the course of many years, you just naturally develop these poor posture habits. Another one, a really bad one, is sitting on the toilet, because you can sit there and just kind of hunch your back over like this, and then it's your neck, it's your shoulders, it's your back, it's all these things. Another one that is so bad is sitting in a car, because you're like sitting back like this, especially like if you're in a captain's chair. A little different if you're in a truck, depending on the structure of the seat, but they have these things where the wings come around and they literally like push your shoulders forward, it's to support you, I think, is the idea. But it's like, you need to be sitting up straight and tall like this. That is what good posture looks like, supporting yourself, sitting up tall with your shoulders down and back and in place. So what I came to learn was that because I am right hand dominant, I use my right hand. It's the hand I swing my hammer with. It's the hand that I cut with, like chopping vegetables and stuff like that. It's the hand that I write with, and all these kind of things. I have had for lack of a better word, tendency to bring this shoulder forward, where it's almost, so I'm double jointed in a few places. Like my joints are loose. I'm quite flexible, and my joints are not as stable as maybe some people. So I've had this thing where it's like I'm reaching forward with my shoulder rather than keeping my shoulder back and down. I can reset it, but it's like I have to continually do this now to remind my body and create new muscle memory of where my shoulder is supposed to go, because I've gotten in such a habit of having this shoulder forward and reaching forward and having it, what is essentially basically like, it's not out of its socket. Like clearly it's, it's not like it's dislocated, but it's not properly located. It's not balanced. It's not in alignment with the other one, and it creates an imbalance. And so, despite all of these videos and things that I've watched about people, physiotherapists trying to tell you how to fix this problem, my problem was different than that. And what I had to learn to do was to compensate for a lifetime of neglect and absent-mindedness, and not realizing that I was doing this thing which was throwing off my whole back. And I do believe that it is the case, because nowadays, the moment I feel that burning sensation, I can lift my shoulder up, bring it back, bring it down, and set it, find a bit of gentle movement, and it goes away. Right? So, I just can't believe that I spent so many years wondering, not knowing, not doing enough research into it, not investigating what it is, not experimenting with how to alleviate this pain, this annoyance, this thing that my body's been telling me for a long time. It's saying, hey, you need to pay way closer attention to your alignment when you're doing everything that you're doing. Because like now is the time to fix that stuff, not when you get old and frail and you're, I don't know, like give up or something like that. And so what I do now is I set my shoulders, and then I go to the gym, and then I do certain exercises and just constantly keep checking in with that shoulder, because I don't have doing the exact same movement with the setting the shoulder down and back. There's no issues in the left side. It is because I'm right hand dominant, and I've used this hand so much. It's the arm that I have up over top of my guitar like this. Like I said, it's my hammer swinging hand. It's your dominant hand, your writing hand. So and I do a number of things. I do the pec deck, I do certain, a lot of different motions using relatively light weights, and doing corrective exercises like face pulls and like shoulder rotations. And what is it? It's not like you're going to fix the problem, something that has accumulated over, decades. It's not like it's just going to go away immediately. But I do believe that I'm on the right path. I am seeing results. And and so that is what I wanted to share, is just that you have to be careful with everything that you do, with the shoes that you wear, how you walk around, how you hold yourself, and how you're not holding yourself, because you need to pay attention to your posture, or else it leads to problems. And it's like, don't wait for the smoking gun, don't wait till it's too late, and then you're in pain and agony and clutching at straws, looking for answers, trying to figure it out. It's like, listen to what your body's telling you. Learn about how the body works and what it should look like, and avoid having to essentially clutch at straws, going to massage therapists and going to chiropractors and going to acupuncture. Not that there's anything wrong with any of these things as a therapy, but you need to address the underlying root cause of whatever is ailing you if you want it to go away. Those other things are complementary, but you need to identify to begin with. And so, and that can be hard, because at that point you have to, if you don't have that knowledge yourself, you have to seek out someone who has that kind of, who is a healer, who can see past the symptoms, who isn't satisfied with superficial answers and like surface level treatments. It's tricky, but I mean, it can be done. Like I said, when I was in Ecuador, in Vilcabamba, I met a woman, and she was a healer. They exist. So yeah. And you know why I make this video? Because there might just be one single person who these words matter to. I know that if I would have heard these words a long time ago, I may have done some things differently. I might have avoided some pain and suffering. I could have avoided spending money on things that didn't have the effect that I was looking for, that didn't serve the purpose that I needed them to. Yeah, so this is for you.